through. And let me also appreciate every participant who has just joined us this evening. We are also live on YouTube. Thank you so much for coming through. We are talking about property investments. And I have with us, or we have with us, okay. Okay. Something is happening in the background. Sorry, I've dealt with that. Okay, so we have with us Mr. Maje Maje, who is the MD for NDAMS. He's a serial entrepreneur. I think he will tell us more about that himself. He is also the president of Reib, Real Estate Institute of Botswana. He is also the co-founder of Apex Properties. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Maje Maje. You are welcome, Mr. Maje Maje. Somebody might want to hear it from your mouth. Who is Maje Maje?
Just a second. Okay. Can you see me?
No, your video, yeah. Your video has gone off.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yes, you are back now.
To the laptop because I was earlier on the phone.
All right.
Basically, okay. I mean, in short, Mr. Maje is a real estate expert, you know. So I wouldn't, and an entrepreneur, you know. I think those two words summarizes who I am. I wouldn't want to go into like a lot of detail, but I think one of the things which is usually mistaken is that if you are a real estate person, you can't be an entrepreneur. You know, I mean, as an entrepreneur, I dabble in even things like technology. You know, one of my biggest interests is, you know, how to, you know, I mean, digitize real estate, because if you look, especially in Africa, we're still way behind when it comes to property and technology, you know, mixing them together and leveraging, you know, the two. So that is one of my key interests, because as much as we always do traditional real estate, but if you don't evolve, eventually you'll be left behind and you'll find yourself, you know, in trouble here.
Thank you so much, Mr. Maje Maje. Would you mind increasing your volume a little bit? I think it was quite low. So we want to slightly better.
How about now? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, but it's like it's going slow. I'm not sure whether it's my network or your network or what's happening there.
It might be my network, but I thought I put it on a higher network level. Yeah.
Oh,
I'll
okay.
try to raise my voice. Yeah, I'll try to raise my voice.
Okay, no problem. Thank you so much. So there is always this argument, Mr. Maje Maje. Is a home an investment? Some people say a home is not an investment. Some people say it is an investment. What do you say?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on what you term as an investment, because right now, usually most people, when they buy a home, it's basically a place where they will be staying in. So they don't really derive any value out of it, you know. But an investment is something where you'll definitely derive a return on that investment. So usually, if you look at most homes, I mean, the owners, they even overspend on you know, how they improve them. So sometimes the return on investment doesn't quite match you know, the investment return that you expect. But at the same time, what happens is that most people, they have got what we call a long-term view, that okay, if I buy this, you know, and then pay it over a period of time, then after that, you know, for me, from where I stand, it's an investment. So it's a very, very difficult thing because it depends on what satisfies you as an investment and what satisfies you as a return. But if I look at it from the literal sense, it's definitely not a prudent investment because most of the time what happens is that sometimes people even take 20-year loans, and then on the 10th year they start struggling to pay that, and the banks come in and they take that from you. Like right now with this COVID thing, I mean, it has put a lot of people under pressure in terms of salaries, being cut off work. So they don't have that revenue, which they can, pay that, house, which is their primary home. But if it was an investment, which was generating revenue for them, then they would be able to service that mortgage with the rental that they. So it just depends on, what you term as investment. But in the literal sense, definitely it's not. But it depends on, some people, what satisfies them. So I don't want to, to be seen as, to be shooting off, a house as not an investment. But if you look at return and income, I mean, definitely you're not making that money. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I think you have put it across so well that those who say a home is an investment, they will remain not hurt. They still feel happy. They are proud of what they have done. And those who think on the other end also, they get in the other direction. I like the fact that you are bringing the issue of return on investment. Every investment must have a return. So yeah, if the home is not bringing a monetary return, generally, in terms of finance, we say a home is not an investment. But like you are saying, it depends on what people call a return. Thank you so much for that. So for entrepreneurs, would you say it's better to start by buying a home or by building your business?
It's better to start by building a business because a business can generate money for you and can build and can create wealth. But whereas a home will definitely eat into your pocket. So you continually have to be funding the home. So it's better to start a business and sustain a business, rather than to buy a home. But I know that like in our market here, a lot of people strongly believe in, putting or tying a lot of their money into a home, and eventually they're handicapped. They can't, free themselves when a situation hits. Because business generates liquidity, business generates money, but a home doesn't generate money. It actually eats money from your pocket. So I think it's something which, to me, is a no-brainer. Even if you are my customer or my client, I would advise it that way. But what we've seen is that a lot of people don't believe in that school of thought, but most of the time they are always proved to be wrong. They always, end up losing out a lot. Yeah.
Thank you so much for saying that. And one, apart from the fact that a home will actually need maintenance, you need to spend money on it. And many of the times when people have taken mortgages, they tend to be paying more for the mortgage than they could get if they were to rent out the house. We are not saying people should not get mortgages. Obviously, they should. We are not saying people should not buy homes. Obviously, they should. But if you are an independent entrepreneur and you really, really want to create wealth, you need to take that risk. We know that some of the most successful entrepreneurs in the world, they started off renting. They were renting the homes where they were staying while they were sacrificing to plow back into their businesses. So I think it goes back to what you said earlier, to say it depends on what people's choices are. But I think many times we are affected by traditional customs. You start working, you must have a house, you must have a car and things like that. You must have some cattle. you know, but without looking at the effect of a return on investment. So there you are, independent entrepreneurs. You can make a decision whether you should start by buying a home or you must invest in your business. So which is advisable, Mr. Maje Maje, buying, selling, or managing a property, using a property agent, or doing it by yourself?
I think if you're not an expert, it's better to get an expert to do that work for you, because they will save you a lot of money in terms of the mistakes that you could miss, you know, or you could make, or sometimes you don't even know how to negotiate a good rental, or you don't know how to negotiate a good sale, you know, because you have to remember that when there is a sales transaction or a rental transaction, whoever is negotiating with you is trying to bargain. So they're trying to get the best deal possible for themselves. So if you don't have an expert representing you, then you will definitely make a mistake. I mean, I always say that actually I'm still surprised that you know, in Botswana or even in Africa, real estate professionals are still the most underrated in terms of advising. I mean, if you look here, if I need to do any business, item, I look for an accountant or a business analyst. And then if there is any legal matter, then I look for a lawyer. But now when it comes to real estate matters, everybody wants to be an expert, you know, and the amount of mistakes, yeah. Whereas in developed markets, that is not the case. I mean, in developed markets, every transaction that happens, there's always a real estate expert to advise. So here we have a situation where, you know, millions and millions of pullers or dollars get lost, get wasted because companies or organizations don't have real estate experts to advise them. I mean, I've seen even with a lot of parastatal organizations, they dispose of assets without a real estate advisor. And you say, but how is that possible? And when you look at the amount of mistakes, the amount of losses that have been made and could have been prevented, it's just shocking, you know. So I'll never ever advise anybody to do a real estate transaction unless they've got expertise in that space.
Thank you so much for bringing that up. I think it touches both individuals, government, and the corporate, that people tend to take other experts in other industries more seriously. But it's time that we arise and understand that real estate is an industry. You can't know everything. So when you want to buy or to sell, or you need proper advice, the same way you go to medical doctors, you go to lawyers, you need to go to a real estate expert. And one thing I've realized about most of the highly successful people or the wealthy people, you realize that they have a team of advisors. They will have finance advisors, they have accountants, they have lawyers, they have all kinds, and among them, they have real estate advisors. And I think all of us need to take that very seriously. And for our dear participants who are with us live here, feel free to send me a chat if you have a question or you have a comment. All right. So, Mr. Maje Maje, what are the trends right now? I know COVID-19 came and is messing us up. What are the trends in Botswana? We know that values of properties in other countries have drastically gone down. The stock market has been highly affected. What would you say about the property industry in Botswana right now? Not necessarily COVID only, but looking at the, you know, residential property, we have the commercial property, we have industrial property. In the past, we have had people building a lot of, you know, shops, building commercial work. And how is it? What are the trends?
I mean, you know, Botswana is a very unique and interesting market. At the moment, we're still stable. You know, we're still not, haven't felt the impact, except that, you know, during the lockdown, a number of people didn't pay rent. But apart from that, you know, everything is still holding steady together. So we don't know what will happen in the next 3 to 4 months. But the banks also, in hindsight, they are trying to, you know, manage risk and then adjust the LTVs. So if they adjust LTVs, definitely, the buying power will be reduced, because if like I hear some of the banks now, the LTV is going to be like 75%, which means you have to raise the 25% difference, which is quite huge, in our market, or looking at our type of consumers. And then also there's been a number of retrenchments in the pipeline, which will definitely affect how real estate performs. And even going into COVID, the banks were already feeling pressure of people defaulting. So we're going to see that going up, but it is not as alarming as in other markets. Like, you look at South Africa, the Viet recession, it's looking bad on their front. So, but here it's still holding on steady. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. There is one acronym you gave, the LTV. Would you like to clarify that? Because not all of us are experts.
LTV is basically a loan to value ratio. So it means what the bank can give, you as a loan in relation to the value of the asset that you are trying to buy.
Beautiful. And I think it just makes sense for banks to be very careful. Instead of giving out 100% or 90%, 95%, they also have to reduce risk. So, Mr. Maje, during a crisis like this one, is it wise for someone to be building or buying properties, or it's a time to hold on to your cash and see what's going to happen?
You see, like this crisis, it's a very, very complex one, So definitely you have to look at, how bad the situation is, or how good the situation is, and weigh your options looking at that. So it's very difficult to say, okay, no, you shouldn't build, or you should build. But like now, let's say in the Botswana scenario, for example, it's still, people are still building, so I think there's still opportunity to build. And then some are still waiting and holding that, maybe things will get worse, and then we'll even get more opportunities. So it depends on what you are building for, because a lot of rental properties, for example, they're still needed, they're still in demand. So if you are building for rental, they're still in the market, But the question then becomes, okay, will the tenants pay on time and all those things? But those are just basically risk metrics, which are always there in business, But in terms of tenancy, I think they still demand,
All right, thank you so much. So me just thinking, I'm thinking, yes, with residential property, there is always demand, but I'm not sure with commercial and industrial property, especially after people have tested lockdown and some people have learned to work from home and things like that. If somebody is gonna continue building commercial and industrial, can they be very sure that indeed they are going to have tenants?
Yeah, the commercial space is getting tricky, because all of us, have gotten, used to now working from home, and also we've adjusted the, space that we take. A lot of corporates are reducing space. People are working from home, so definitely it's going to be very, very tricky for a lot of landlords. And even when we went into COVID, there were a lot of vacancies. So we think there's going to be a serious challenge on the office space. But we don't know how it's going to pan out. But what usually happens, like even now, I'll give you an example in South Africa, they're experiencing the same thing. So now, some of the landlords have converted these offices now into residential accommodation. you know. So there's always, the beauty with the real estate is that, you know, you can always, you know, convert it into something, or turn it, you know, change its alternative use, you know. But you have to think, or you have to have the right experts who can advise you that, okay, this is how you could turn this thing around.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Maje Maje. And I'm thinking that, yes, that's one of the things that can actually happen, where you turn your offices into residential. How easy do you see that if it were to, if Botswana was to go that route? For example, we have Fairgrounds Park there, where we have offices everywhere. We have, you know, Commerce Park. It's also offices everywhere. Finance Park. If it got to that place where people have to turn those into residential, how easy do you think that can be?
I mean, I think it just depends on how these things have been built, you know. So if the space was not configured well, so it might prove difficult. But if the space has been done well, then it will be easy. I know that, I mean, there's one office building here by Gaborone Station, which has been converted into like a student accommodation. So, you know, because there's an office where it is now, it is no longer prime, but previously where it was seen as prime, you know.
Beautiful. No, thank you so much. So are there any other challenges, Mr. Maje Maje, that you are seeing in the property industry, particularly in Botswana or in Southern Africa at the moment, apart from what we have already talked about?
I think, you know, challenges will always be there. One, like, let's say, if you look at land allocation, land availability, especially in Botswana, it's still a big challenge. So that has created shortage, you know. So when the parcels of land which comes into the market for development are way less than what, you know, the demand is, then it creates a big challenge. And until that is, you know, sorted, then we still have got, you know, a lot of challenges. And then also, you know, we have got new tax, you know, policies like, you know, transfer duty, you know, which has been pegged at 30%. So a lot of, I mean, players in the market, you know, feel that it is disadvantaging them. So they're very, very cautious about what they, you know, how they're going to play in the market. But at the same time, you find that even governments have got social, you know, responsibility to try and advance, you know, their citizens in owning land. And one other thing which I think, you know, is a big challenge in Botswana or even in the rest of Africa is how Africans understand real estate. A lot of us don't understand real estate. They don't know the value of real estate. So you find that we compete with a lot of individuals from markets where real estate is very competitive. So they already understand the game. So when they come here, they find that we are sitting on gold or diamond, and we know nothing about it. So until there is a big push in educating Africans about real estate, I think we have a real problem, you know, and that problem needs to be addressed. That's why I was saying, like, if you look in the world, there are only 3 identifiable investment vehicles. You know, it's shares, it's interest, and real estate, you know. So, but our understanding of real estate, I mean, like, even when we grow up, we are always told, no, you should save money, put money in the bank. I mean, right now, the interest is almost 0. So if you put your money in the bank, by the time, you know, 5 years down the line, it is no longer the original, you know, 100,000 pula you had, because even interest on it was very little, but the cost of just keeping that money on the bank was very high, because banks every month, they have got, you know, bank fees. So they are forever eating your money. So instead of you growing money, actually you are losing money. And if you look at these advanced markets, a lot of, you know, investors put, you know, a lot of their money in real estate as a hedge, against all this volatility. Because the beauty with real estate, it has gone through many dips and ups. So one dip, the building will still be there. Then it goes on and up, the value goes up. Then it dips, the building is still there. Then it goes on and up, is still. I mean, some buildings, especially even places like in the UK, they've been there for 400 or 500 years, but they're still holding steady on their value. So really, it is something that I feel that until we understand that concept, our kids need to understand it. Our peers need to understand it. Our parents need to. A lot of us don't know nothing about real estate as as blacks in Africa.
Thank you so much. So, for example, Mr. Maje Maje, this is not the first time you and I are talking about real estate. We have done quite a number of interviews, but you realize that people are interested in other topics compared to real estate. So I really agree with you that people don't know much about real estate, but I think also people don't seem to be interested in knowing what can we do apart from us holding these interviews. How do you think we can educate the masses, educate our people so that they understand real estate better, so that maybe at one time we can be like those people in the developed world?
I think we need a lot of influencers also to understand real estate and to play in the real estate space. So until that is there, it will still not remain as an attractive vehicle, but you'll find that a lot of people, like even now in Botswana right now, the topic is centered around real estate because everybody is waking up and they're shocked that actually people who have built real estate portfolios are all billionaires. Us who don't have real estate portfolios are paupers because we live hand to mouth. You rely on a salary. I mean, initially, people even used to think that, if you work for government, it's a job for life. Now we are coming to realize that actually working for government is equally risky as working for a private company. So if you don't have, an asset base which generates rental for you month on month, you're in trouble, yeah.
Thank you so much. And you know what I've realized? Most of the time, people believe that you never go wrong with real estate. But I tell people that people go wrong every day in real estate. It's an investment like any other. So if you don't know what you're doing, you definitely go wrong. With people that come to me for financial coaching, you realize that somebody can actually come and they have quite a number of properties, but they are failing to get food. They can't put food on the table, yet they have the properties. And in most cases, they have been doing this thing by themselves. They are trying to manage everything by themselves. When they are buying the land, they do it by themselves. When they are selling the land, they do it by themselves. So I think people have heard what you have said. What advice do you have for the corporates and for first-time buyers, first-time property buyers?
My advice is very simple. I mean, just like a car or anything, for you to get in, into a car, you need to be taught how to drive it, So you definitely need somebody who can hold you by the hand and guide you. I mean, interesting enough, one of the persons who have just joined here is Mamra Pedi. I think she's in London. She's into this thing called facilities management. You'll find that, the UK had the challenges with managing their facilities. A lot of companies were collapsing because properties were not managed well. And facilities management was introduced. And that is a specialized skill where people make sure that every building, generates, income optimally and it is maintained well. And then you find that here we have got buildings which are owned by government, both schools, hospitals, you name it. And they're not managed, by facilities managers. Or if there is a facilities manager, is the facilities manager just a name, but the resources to do that are not there. So everybody really needs a real estate expert for them to understand, how real estate works. It is a very, very complex and dynamic, industry. It looks simple on the surface, but trust me, believe me, it is, once it's put together, I mean, you could make a mistake on space management. Let's say how your building layout is done. That will cost you money. I mean, I've seen even in Gaborone, by the CBD, a lot of buildings, underground parking, poorly done, poor angles. So now, instead of them generating good revenue out of those spaces, they can't do that. Why? Because when it was done, there was no real estate expert involved. So you end up losing money, by just not involving an expert in when you are designing it. I mean, our job is to advise you so that you can get a good return on investment.
Thank you so much, Mr. Maje Maje. I want to appreciate you for your time and for that amazing advice that you have given us. And I would also want to appreciate Daniel Dillman Asante, all the way from Ghana, Mamura Pedi, all the way from the UK, Tsepo, all the way from Botswana with us, I guess. Thank you so much, everybody. And we had Vaka earlier on. I'm not sure whether he's still available. Are there any questions? Please send in your chats or any comments. As we wrap up this evening, what we have learned so far is that the same way that when you are ill, you must look for a medical doctor. How many times, Mr. Maje Maje, have people thought that they now know what to do with their health, and then you delay until by the time you go to the hospital, you are told, if you had come just 1 minute earlier, this person would have been saved. If you had come a week earlier, this situation could have been helped. It's very important for us to work with experts. The same applies when you try to do some deals. I think all of us, to a certain extent, there are some decisions we have made on our own, and we avoided using a legal practitioner. And then you found yourself in trouble. And by the time you try to look for the lawyer, it can be too late, or they can rescue you, but with a lot of costs. So the same applies with property. People say you never go wrong in property, but I say people go wrong in property every day. It's quite amazing. Sometimes, Mr. Maje, I get people calling me or WhatsApping from different places, some from outside the country. They know nothing about Botswana, and they want to come and invest in Botswana. And then they will be expecting me to give them all the information and consult for them for free and, just tell them everything about the country. Who has time for that? So when you say to them, what's your budget? No, they are not willing to pay, but they want to come and invest. They have money to buy property, but they don't have money to go and see a financial coach, let alone to go and see people like Mr. Maje Maje, who are experts in property, who can advise you properly. It's quite amazing. I never understand how people are willing to part with huge sums of money, but they are not willing to spend a little so that they make the right decisions. But I'm sure out of this interview, our people will learn something from that. It's important for us when you are buying land, when you are selling, when you want to know more. I remember one of my mentors, he's in America. He says every time he goes to any country, the first place he goes to is a real estate office. He wants to understand how things are, how the prices of land, houses, and so on are in every city where he goes. And I've learned to do the same thing. It's quite exciting. Any continent I go to, one of my hobbies, whether I have money or I don't have money, one of my hobbies is to look for a real estate office and find out information. How is the real estate industry in this country? How is the real estate industry in this city? So I think you have said it so well. I didn't see any chats coming through. So thank you very much, everybody, for coming through tonight. God bless you. See you in another interview. Thank you, Mr. Maje Maje.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Apologies for coming in so late. I literally just, thought, it's better to just hear the last few words. But yeah, I caught at least the last end of it, which is still good.
We are so honored to have you, Mamura Pedi. You have no idea. We are honored to have you. Those few minutes mean a lot to us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And anyway, the video we are going to have this. It's also on YouTube. My channel is Dr. Wilbert Mutoko. So the whole interview is there. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye. All the best.
Okay.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye, Maje.
Bye.